Hello, everybody. I'm Marsha Wietecha, in case you didn't know that, and I'm the host of the Born to Talk radio show, where conversations plus connections equals community. And follow that up with what's your story, and we've got the basis of a radio show. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce you to my guest today. To my right, Paul Drago. Welcome to the show, Paul. So let's talk about, first of all, the fact of who you are. So I want to read your introduction, Paul. You are the founder of JOJOKID Music. You're a songwriter, you're a producer, and you're a publisher. Does I get that right?
That's right.
Okay, perfect. I'm glad, because that's what I wrote. And I thought you could just share with our audience that don't know you just a little bit. And we're all interested in hearing, right?
I'm interested.
I'm interested. So let's hear a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from, all that good stuff about Paul Drago.
Okay, sounds good. First of all, I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to have us here.
Oh, it's
Thank
my
you.
pleasure.
Because you have a wonderful show and have watched others, and it is really a pleasure to be here, doing the show with you.
Thank
So I
you.
just want to make sure I get that
Thank you,
said
Paul.
to you.
That's nice.
But that's a good question. I was born and raised in New York City, and I'm a boy from New York City for sure.
Okay.
Raised in Queens, actually. So I went to high school and college in Queens. I'm from an Italian immigrant family. My father came over the boat, Ellis Island, the whole thing. So it was really, really good. So I grew up in Queens, and very diverse neighborhood also in Queens. We had Jewish temple down the block and Catholic schools over here, everything. It was wonderful, and, having that kind of background and culture and stuff. So the good question too is, born and raised in New York, I did all of my music there. And I, had bands there. We'll talk a little bit about it. I was with United Artists, toured, and that whole thing. But I think you had mentioned that, in turn, now I'm in LA.
Right.
And actually, if you recall, some of the historians here we had the disco scene, the music scene, everything out. And LA was somewhere out there, the Beach Boys and that sort of thing.
Yeah, we had the surfing music
Love
out
the
here,
Yeah.
didn't we?
Yes, that's right. The Ventures or whatever, but we had, Philly Sound, and we had also Atlantic Records, and Columbia was based out of there as well. But also that we had a change in the music scene. So that was one of the reasons why I decided, okay, I'm going to come out to LA and really get rooted here. The entertainment industry is great, and the people out here are wonderful. So that's what did it.
Didn't go through Motown. Didn't do the Detroit on the way to LA.
No, actually, I grew up on Motown, and basically it influenced a lot of my music. But there was enough of that being in New York City in the urban areas and stuff like that. So I got that influence anyway, and the people around me loved, the East Coast sound.
Well, we certainly did have our beach scene here. I mean, you're absolutely right. The Beach Boys and Jan and Dean and all of that. That was very much a localized musical sound. You had mentioned that you had worked with some of the studios.
Yes, I did. Actually, New York was the home of Atlantic Studios, and Aretha Franklin's producer would jump in while we were, doing some recording there. I don't know if you remember the Young Rascals.
Of
Their
course.
drums were in the corner there. So a lot of the R&B stuff came out of Atlantic, But I did want to mention that I had the honor of working in the public school systems as a teacher.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was in
Didn't know that.
Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
And it was an urban community. It was wonderful. And I also taught the music club as
I was
well.
to say, did you taught
Yeah.
music?
Yeah, but also math.
Math.
Yes, I was a math teacher, but math and music kind of go together.
They do.
Type of
Because
thing.
they do, because of the rhythm.
Yes, the
Right.
skills
The
of,
sight.
I guess, the brain wave or something. But I really did love that. But actually, I was lucky to be affiliated with good management there. My manager was working with William Morris. And that helped us not only with booking, but with a lot of good connections. His good friends were Three Dog Night.
Oh.
So I connected with Three Dog Night. They came into the studio, helped us produce a couple of songs there. And the cool thing about it is they have so much wisdom because they made it.
Yes.
So I worked very closely with that, and that led me to Rick Shepard,
I
who
was going to ask you about that. Who sang in the opening
Yes,
song, right?
yes, he was the guy. He was the lead singer, still is actually, still touring. He was out in LA
Really?
recently. He was at the Canyon Club and some other
No
places.
kidding.
So I got the honor of actually working, and he said, "Oh," they said, "Well, listen, can you write a song for us?" And the drummer and I wrote "Can We Share It?" They loved it, and they recorded, got onto Columbia Records. And the producer, you probably may have heard of Gloria Gaynor.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the same producers, that team that did Gloria Gaynor and Star Wars Disco in those days, produced this number as well. So I don't know if you know the Will Lee, the bass player who's on the Letterman show,
Oh, I
tall
don't. Yeah.
gentleman. Anyway, he was played on this on the record,
No
and we
kidding.
just had a great
When
time.
was that record recorded? How long ago?
That was in the 70s, just as the height of the disco period over there.
Got it.
So it was really good. He's got such an amazing voice that we did a great job.
Gosh. So can we share it? So did I understand you wrote?
Yes, wrote the song and kind of did a demo.
Okay.
And then they had in those days with disco, they had like real musicians and they had like a team of musicians, and it's like a kind of a factory, one after the other. So, okay, Paul, you're up. Come on in. Okay. And then we recorded the track, and I conducted the orchestra there.
So fun.
Yeah. And then they brought Rick in to do the song.
The next song we're going to hear when we leave, because all of this music was selected by you, is called "In the Rain."
Yes.
What can you tell me about that song?
Well, I have a friend of mine. His name is Tony Maturana. Tony Maturana, I worked with in Queens.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember the Son of Sam and all that stuff going on.
That's the bad part of life.
And
Yes.
I worked in Bayside, Queens at the same time with Tito Puente and some other Latin
yes.
acts. Anyway, he was the lead singer in a band I was with.
Oh, no kidding.
And as fate would make it, he became a pastor. And then he actually went to Rochester, New York. I met him back in Rochester, reconnected with him. He was a pastor, and then we wrote a couple songs together, and we wrote "In the Rain," which was did very well in the market that we were
That's
in.
neat.
Yeah, it was really a wonderful song.
So I'm just curious about you. So you've written music.
Yes,
Are you a singer as well?
I used to be when I toured,
Okay.
but no longer. I just feel better and comfortable, do a better job just writing.
And this is that song, "In the Rain," by your buddy Tony. All right.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, everybody. Well, I'll be quiet so you can hear some of this, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Your eyes, I'm hoping to, looking for my breakthrough. Life has its rain, without it no gain. In the rain, I see you.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Oh, I told you this was going to be cool music. Oh my gosh! So what is this, Paul?
Dame más, like Tristita.
Sure, you
Yes.
can say that. And this is Abby singing this.
Abby Cuban, yes.
Abby Cuby.
Yes.
So that's another artist that you've worked with.
Yes.
You've worked with so many you can't keep track of all of them, I'm sure. What's the story behind that? Did you write that as well?
Yes, I did. It was originally written with a team I had back in New York City. Okay, and it was all English. And when I came out here to Los Angeles, actually, Abby was my first recording artist when I came
No
here.
kidding. Cool.
And she was multilingual and everything. I said, let's do a Spanglish version of this. So what ended up happening is that I wrote some of the Spanish lyric as well. And it came out very well because it was a beautiful rendition of the song. It flowed great, and it did pretty well, too.
So you're bilingual.
Yes, I can speak some Spanish, enough that you get me in trouble, and also, but also, yeah, and I was able to, and I also work with talented people too that kind of help me out.
Well, and you've mentioned some bands that
Mm-hmm.
were Spanish.
I have a notebook next to me also, titles. And titles are important just for all your songwriters out there. Titles are very important.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so anytime I come up with a title, I write it down. So I have just a book of titles in there. Like you
Interesting.
have the word that sort of inspires thoughts.
Right.
I have titles that inspire songs as well.
That's interesting, and I suppose I hadn't really thought about that. But for those of you that are listening, that are, inspired to write or inspired to sing, that's a really interesting tip, but you never wrote yourself a song to sing. Is that right?
I did early on
Uh-huh.
because when I was with United Artists, you know, we had my own band, and also I toured all over the country with a couple of groups and wrote for myself and other members of the
Uh-huh.
group. So I was originally a singer, but I retired from that and went into the production and writing.
And what's the difference when you talk about production? I guess define what the difference. What's the difference? What does production mean?
Well, if you take a look at it and be analogous to the movie industry, you have
Okay.
a director, right?
Uh-huh.
The director comes in there and shapes the movie, I imagine, and she could school me more on this, right? But what I do, basically, I'm responsible for delivering the actual end product,
I
which is
see.
whether it be arrangements, whether I do them myself, mixing it all and putting all the tracks together, working with the artists, helping to kind of bring themselves up into the highest point that you can, you know. That's my job. So I kind of sit back and they do all the work, but I sort of like put it all together and do the inspiration. And then I'm responsible. The producer says to you, here's the end product done.
Tick tock, tick.
Okay, this is
Yeah.
another song that you also wrote, Paul.
Yes, yes.
TikTok, right?
Oh, I like this one.
Isn't this cool?
I love dance songs.
Yeah, this is it's got a great sound to it. Where do you get motivated? Does this happen for you regularly, where you just will wake up with something in your head?
Well, sometimes, other times, I might sit there and say, I'm going to write a song for somebody or something, and I have a topic in mind. So then you start with a blank slate. I took a lot of songwriting group and classes like you did in New York City with some great writers. Lou Stallman, I must admit, he wrote Gonna Take a Miracle and Sad Eyes. Yeah, remember those? He wrote those, and I was in actually workshops with them, you know. And what they do, I won't belabor on this.
No,
but
no, we've got the time. It's a talk show.
Okay, what we did is they'd say, okay, everybody in the group says you're going to break up into like 2 or 3 people in each group. Pick a topic. Okay, good. Go in the other room. And I'll give you 5 minutes. I want a chorus and a verse. Huh?
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Boom. So we all go into our rooms, put a chorus and verse together, and we all come together and perform it for each other. Talk about pressure. So
fun,
that's
but
the way you
scary.
write. Sometimes you have to just bring yourself to do that, and that's what
Glossary,
happens as well.
glossary for those of us.
Okay.
Chorus and verse.
Yes.
Define the two.
Okay. A verse is where you kind of tell the story of the song and you get into the development.
Is that what I
of
would
it.
call lyrics in my head?
Lyrics are for
They're
both.
all the whole
All-
thing is lyrics.
Oh,
Correct. Correct.
Oh, so chorus is like the repeated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the chorus in the song.
And we call it the hook.
It's like a science behind
Okay.
Yes.
structure, like
we call
screenwriting.
Yes, we call it the hook.
Got
So
it.
you may hear me say, "Oh, we got a great hook." Mystified has lucky that we have a great hook on that. You know, you can sing it, remember it, and that sort of thing. And then the verse is where you tell the story about it and bring it in.
Okay, so what comes first? The melody or the words?
Depends. It depends.
Really?
Sometimes I'll come up with a great melody, and that's where I had a staff. I love collaborating with people, by the way. Generally, it could be either or, you know, maybe a verse and a chorus, maybe a lyric, or maybe just a melody. Burt Bacharach, you've probably heard of Bacharach and David.
sure.
You know, Burt Bacharach wrote melody only,
Oh,
and Hal David wrote lyrics only.
got it.
And he would actually take the melody and say, okay, write a lyric to it.
Interesting.
So it all depends. And then with Elton John, it was the other way around. He was working with Bernie Taupin, who said, here's my lyric, write a melody to it. But with me, it just could be both.
Do you have a keyboard in your home?
Yes, I do.
Do you have a studio in your home as
Yes,
well? Or
yes,
you
I do actually. And my guitar is actually my main instrument.
That was going to be my next
Yeah.
question. How interesting. So
Yeah.
if you had to say, you know, give me the guitar, and what kind of a guitar did you play?
I have acoustic. I have a Les Paul. You know, I have all of the
Uh-huh.
various things, 12 string and that sort of thing. But mainly, I write on my acoustic.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's so. And do you play the guitar every day?
Pretty much, you know, I used to tour. You know, I used to work, you know, every 7 nights a week and go all over the place
Really?
with the guitar and also do singing. But yeah, I can play okay. I'm not as great
You're
as some of
good.
these great people are, but I'm a rhythm player. But I write with it.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
What are some of the exciting? So you've got a new song that you're working on in the studio. Okay, well,
Oh, the
thank
fun.
you. That was just terrific. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
guys.
having
you.
us.
This was. Thank you for just rolling with this with me. It was just the
It's
best.
great.